Most horses are bred with a plan in mind. Mystique didn't quite start out like most horses. She didn't have a pedigree, just an unexpected twin born in the back of a quiet barn. And that's where her story really begins. Not in the circus ring, but in that first pretty impossible moment. Even from the start, there was something miraculous about her. You're all right, Flora. I'm right here. Beautiful little colt, good girl. Easy, sweetheart. I don't think you're done. Come on, Belle. Just one more time. Twins, it almost never happens. And when it does, they don't both survive. But somehow that 1 in 100,000 chance did pull through. However, their dam wasn't so lucky. A remarkable night at Everstead Farm on the island of South Hoof, where 2 Norker foals made history. Twins born just after midnight, both alive and well. I've delivered a lot of foals, but never 2 like this. I guess never 2, period. Their dam gave everything she had to bring them here, and part of her lives on in both of them. There hasn't been a documented case of surviving twin foals in Jorvik in over 100 years. The siblings, a colt and a filly, are already thriving. It was indeed rare for twins like this to survive, and yet, here they were. It wasn't right away, maybe a couple years, long after the foals had been weaned, but eventually, buyers started showing up at the farm. Word had spread that this place had produced 2 unusually bold, strong-moving Norikers, and sure enough, a pair of representatives came from across Jorvik asking about young stock. They were scouting for a circus. They weren't really looking for a green project or something that needed miles. They wanted something eye-catching, something that could take pressure and stand out under lights. Looking back at the old photos, it's not hard to see why they picked her. Even as a green youngster, Mystique had that extra edge, that kind of presence you don't really have to teach. And the other little colt, he stayed. Maybe he didn't show off quite as much as she did, or maybe he just got lucky. It's funny how a single choice one day can send 2 lives spinning in totally different directions. When Mystique first arrived at the Starlight Circus, the setup didn't look bad. Clean stalls, a feeding schedule, and a few handlers who genuinely cared. And as time passed, Mystique adapted to the new routines out of the farm and into this new weird world of training. But over time, the rhythm of circus life wore thin. She was worked daily, but not just by one person. It was a constant, confusing rotation of trainers and assistants, each with their own approach and style. You could tell they weren't looking to develop a partnership. Just results. Some patient, some less so. Most of them weren't cruel, just rushed, underpaid, and under pressure to get results. And she did pick things up quickly. The basics came first. Yield to pressure, stand still, walk in hand. Then the more theatrical things like bowing, stepping onto platforms, weaving through poles. It was repetitive, a bit mechanical, always the same order and always the same timing. And there was not much room for softness or flexibility. They wanted sharp, consistent reactions, the kind that would stand out for a show. And she did it. She learned the routine, learned when to brace, when to give. There was no turnout, no herd, no variety, just work in the ring, tied at the fence, then back to her stall.
Welcome to the Starlight Circus.
Introducing the miraculous Mystique.
enough, her name started appearing on flyers all around Jorvik. She was scheduled for 2 shows a day, 7 days a week. There wasn't a lot of downtime. In fact, there was none. It was show, back to the stall, then showtime again. She had no real turnout. Sometimes the showrunners would skip paying for a stable hand for the day to save an extra buck. Food was fed sparingly, and they didn't have much extra time to give her any attention.
Okay, I don't know what's gonna happen or if this will work, but I'm at the circus barn right now. It's close to midnight and most of the crew's gone for the night. I mean, I've been hearing things for weeks about how these horses are kept, and honestly, I just needed to see for myself. Here is the barn. Jeez, these stalls haven't been mucked out in days. They do look pretty underweight, and I don't even see any hay in these stalls. There's still gear on this poor horse. I don't know, maybe
Who's there?
Today, backlash continues after secretly recorded footage from the Starlight Circus sparked concern across Jorvik. The video shows several horses left tied overnight, still wearing training tack with little oversight. Since its release, pressures from animal rights groups and local citizens has only grown. While no official action has been taken yet, ticket sales have dropped, sponsors are pulling support, and sources say the circus is struggling to stay afloat. At the time, it was unclear what would happen next. But for many, the message was simple. The spotlight was finally on the animals. In the end, it wasn't a loss of interest for the circus that closed it down. It was people finally speaking up. Sure, the long, exhausting days might have ended, but that didn't mean things got easier, just different. With the show shut down and bills piling up, they needed the animals gone fast. No second chances, no thoughtful placements, just a quick trip to the auction to get what they could. With that, Mystique and all the others were hauled straight to the Starshine auction, dropped into pens, labeled, numbered, forgotten. I wasn't looking for her. I wanted something uphill, something lean, quick, maybe a warm blood I could bring along for eventing. So when I saw the chunky Norker mare standing off to the side, I didn't even check her info card. So when the bidding started and I still didn't have a plan, honestly, I didn't think I'd end up getting anything at all. I was just watching mostly and taking mental notes. Some got picked up by lesson barns or trail riding facilities. The lucky ones got a new great owner. The rest, well, auctions don't wait for fairy tales. And then finding Mystique. It wasn't some big magical moment. It was loud, dusty, and honestly, I almost didn't get her. But then she stepped into the ring and I actually watched her move. She had this quiet balance, powerful but soft, like she commanded your attention when she was in the ring. And she must have got mine because the next thing you know, I was bidding. I had just enough to outbid the guy standing next to me who was fighting for her. 2,600 shillings, and she was mine. Not the cleanest start, but definitely the best decision I could have made that day. Mystique's first few days at the Cosmic Equestrian Center were simple. No big training sessions, no pressure, just letting her figure it out. She was very cautious, checking the fence lines, eyeing the other horses. She especially took a liking to my other little mare, Belle. She wasn't afraid by any means, she was just very curious, like she was waiting to see if this place would be different. So we didn't dive into anything fancy right away, just groundwork, liberty, simple stuff. I wasn't trying to fix her, just get to know her and let her get to know me. I'd ask her to move with me, stop with me, mirror my walk. Sometimes she'd follow, sometimes she wouldn't. Honestly, it felt like we were both figuring it out at the same time. Her learning to trust again and me learning a whole new side of horsemanship. I've always come from an eventing background, so this whole liberty thing was very new to me. It wasn't about big breakthroughs at this point. It was about the small stuff. Little looks, a shift of weight, that soft moment when she exhaled and just stood next to me like she chose to be there. Meanwhile, a good friend of mine, Georgia Blueland, aka Vea, had picked up a Norker gelding named Harry. She'd found him through a local rehoming contact. He'd been in a lesson barn that didn't really suit him, and by the time Vea showed up, he was shut down and confused, just kind of existing. The first time I saw him in her video, I actually did a double take because they looked identical. We joked about it at first. The same build, the same movement, same in almost every way down to the very last mark. So for fun, we decided to do a little DNA test. Honestly, we didn't think it would be anything, but turns out they weren't just spirit twins, they were actually brother and sister. After all they had been through, somehow they found their way back to each other. Not long after we figured out the truth, Vea trailered Harry over for a little play date, and when they saw each other, there was no hesitation. They just walked right up like they'd been waiting for it all this time. Not tense, not nervous, just like picking up a conversation where it left off. After everything, Mystique finally had a piece of her past back. After a few months of getting to know each other, Mystique is starting to settle into the routine here. No rushed schedules, no crazy loud arenas, just simple and fair work, letting her figure things out one step at a time. This spring, we actually got invited to do a little Liberty demo at the Equestrian Festival. And I wasn't really sure how she'd handled the crowds again after being away from them for so long, but she walked into that arena like she owned the place. We kept it simple, a few patterns at Liberty, some cantering circles, a bow, nothing fancy, or too fancy. I mean, a bow was pretty fancy, but just a relaxed, confident horse, finally showing what she could do without anyone pushing her too hard. And when she lowered into that final bow, it wasn't a perfect routine, it wasn't polished, but it was hers, and that's all I could have asked for. Now Mystique's days are pretty simple. Good grass, a herd to call her own, and a few tricks when she feels like showing off. She went from the bright lights of a circus tent to the quiet fields of her forever home. Mystique's journey definitely was not easy, but it brought her exactly where she was supposed to be.